In a world drenched in surface-level reactions and hasty judgments, where people leap to conclusions as if truth lies on the tip of a trending headline, something fundamental has been lost: context. And without context, justice gasps for air. No commander worth his salt, no state leader, no seasoned general would ever tell soldiers to stand still and wait to be cut down while the enemy advances. That would be madness. The logic of warfare is brutal but simple. When facing a clear foe on the battlefield, orders are given to strike first, to neutralize the threat before it kills your comrades. To demand otherwise would be to betray every soldier under one's command. Look at the declarations coming from the same governments that lecture the world on civilization. We will hunt them down wherever they hide. ISIS, al-Qaida, labeled enemies, declared guilty by the state, targeted wherever they are found. When Western jets and special forces carry out that exact logic, strike them before they strike you. No one accuses the commander of moral cowardice. The action is framed as necessity, justice, counter-terrorism. Yet transpose the same phrasing onto a Qur'anic verse, and suddenly a thunderstorm of outrage is summoned. Kill the polytheists wherever you find them. By the same logic, a critic could cry Islamophobia because those militant groups claim Islam. The double standard is not subtle. It's a mirror shattered by willful blindness. And before any charge of equivalence is raised, know this. Most Muslims repudiated those groups long ago. But repudiation does not erase the rhetorical inconsistency of those who condemn the Qur'an, while endorsing the same wartime logic when it serves their strategic aims. Consider the mirror. This holds up to any critic who sneers at the defender. Modern societies do not send soldiers out with promises of shame and abandonment. Those who go to fight are given rank, recognition, medals, pensions, and a promise that their sacrifice will be honored. And if they fall, their families are not left empty-handed. That worldly structure of duty and reward is no different in principle from the moral architecture Islam lays over combat. Defend the entrusted, receive honor for victory, and be granted martyrdom if death comes while defending life. To mock someone for standing to protect their people while celebrating the same sacrificial logic in one's own military affairs is not argument. It is hypocrisy exposed. Behind these rules lies a final, solemn reminder from the divine. Human life is sacred. The Quran declares that killing one innocent soul is as if a person has slain all mankind. And that sacredness reaches inward as a thunderbolt to the heart. It includes the life that beats inside the chest of each believer. This is not an abstract sanctity that only protects strangers. It is a demand to preserve one's own existence. No sane commander would order troops to stand like helpless ducks while the enemy converges. That would be a command to commit suicide. The divine law is not a call to passive martyrdom. It is a command to preserve life, to strike when survival demands it. When a soldier's stand protects children, parents, and whole communities who depend on that soldier, refusing to act would be a betrayal of those dependents as much as of oneself. Yet if, in the furnace of battle, one fights to save life and still falls, then the loss is not pointless. It is martyrdom, a crown bestowed by Allah for the sacrifice made defending life itself. Thus, Allah balances the sanctity of life with the harsh logic of defense. Protect your life, protect others, fight when necessary, and if death comes in that noble struggle, the highest honor awaits. The truth is suffocated under a pile of assumptions, and nowhere is this more dangerous than in discussions about Islam. One verse, one scene, one statement, that's all it takes to ignite a storm of outrage. Strip that verse or that scene from its setting, its circumstances, and its purpose, and you're no longer dealing with truth. You're playing God with half the story. The infamous verse of the sword, Surah At-Tawbah 9:5, is flung around like a weapon, quoted, twisted, stripped of its surroundings. Accusations fly, Islam is violent. Muslims are commanded to kill non-believers. And yet, the next verse, verse 6, is conveniently ignored, deliberately skipped. Why? Because verse 6 demolishes the narrative. This is precisely why battlefield directives exist in every military tradition. When an enemy has betrayed treaties, when the battlefield is the arena of life or death, commanders will order soldiers to kill enemy combatants before those combatants kill them. It is not moral abdication. It is the hard logic of survival and defense. In the Qur'anic command that targets fighting in specific wartime conditions, the same uncompromising logic appears. The permission to strike is bounded, contextual, and born of necessity. It says, "And if one of the polytheists seeks your protection, then grant him protection so that he may hear the words of Allah. Then escort him to where he can be secure." Protection. Security. Escorting the enemy to safety. This is not violence. This is divine restraint. This is a code of war with a moral compass. Even in the battlefield, Islam demands mercy. But the modern world has developed a dangerous habit, cherry-picking verses like gossip from a conversation, presenting them as universal laws, while ignoring the entire historical and textual scaffolding that gives them meaning. The verse in question was revealed after the conquest of Makkah, in a time when paganism had poisoned the heart of Arabia, and when peace treaties were repeatedly broken by the idolaters. The command to fight wasn't about religion. It was about betrayal. It was about honoring broken covenants and securing the safety of the Muslim Ummah after years of persecution. Understand this. When treachery becomes routine and treaties are a facade, the oppressed cannot be expected to stand exposed and passive. When an enemy has shown themselves to be an active, recurring danger, when the battlefield is the proving ground of that enmity, the only sane command is to meet force with force and to prevent slaughter by preemption within the rules of engagement. Thus, Allah gave Muslims permission to confront and stop that threat, to kill the enemy combatants in that specific context so that the larger community might live. Even modern militaries issue battlefield commands. During wartime, a general might order soldiers to engage the enemy without mercy on the battlefield. Taken out of that context, years later, such words would sound monstrous, but in war, they are expected. No one accuses a soldier of war crimes for fighting a declared enemy in combat. So when the Quran orders fighting in specified circumstances, kill the polytheists wherever you find them, as applied to the battlefield where betrayal and repeated aggression occurred, it is the divine analogue of a commander's order to protect the troop. The permission is narrow, conditional, and reactive. It is allowed because the enemy had broken trust, attacked, and endangered the community. Allah permits the act only in that dire setting, not as a blanket license to slaughter innocents. Yet when the Quran offers similar battlefield directives rooted in betrayal, specific in time and place, and bounded by divine ethics, it is painted as a religion of blood. Why? Because people love ignorant simplicity over uncomfortable truth. Because context demands effort, and effort is inconvenient. But Islam is not a religion that fears scrutiny. It is a faith that commands understanding. Those who say otherwise are either blind, dishonest, or both. That doctrinal anchor restrains every command to fight, even in wartime, and prevents the permission from hardening into a creed of bloodlust. Allah's allowance to fight is a controlled exception, not a proclamation of chaos. It is the sovereign telling the community, I am still the boss. I alone ordain life and death. And he grants a narrow, conditional license where justice and survival demand it. And behind all the noise, behind all the twisted interpretations and dishonest accusations, lies one neglected truth. Context is not optional, it is essential. Without it, falsehood masquerades as fact, and the Quran is blamed for crimes it never condoned. The tragedy of our age is not that people misunderstand Islam, it's that they choose to misunderstand it. They are not confused, they are committed to confusion. And so, the next time a verse is thrown at the world like a spear, the question must be asked, what came before it? What came after it? What was happening when it was revealed? If those questions are ignored, then what is being discussed is not the Quran. It is a fantasy born of prejudice. Islam doesn't fear the truth. Islam is the truth. And truth, real, raw, unfiltered truth, does not need to scream to be heard. It only needs to be seen in full.